Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day.
Bingo!
And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day. The friendly ticket writers are happy to help, and it's conveniently located next to the famous Del Mar Deli, where you'll find supersized portions of delicious deli items like roast beef, pastrami, and Reuben sandwiches, or soups, salads, and pizza, plus spectacular desserts fit for a king. And right next door is the race book, over 150 seats, each with its own TV screen. There are 16 interactive player terminals, so you can bet right from your seat.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in at Sports by the Book here on the next to last Saturday of the regular season of college football. Jeff Parles, Alex White. We are here. We are ready to go. We are here. Yes, we promise. We are here. Alex,
you're a little more ready than me, but I'm getting there.
Well, let's just dive right in. Get a few games here today. Again, don't worry. We'll have all the big games: Indiana, Ohio State, LSU, or not LSU anymore. Army and Notre Dame. Those are the 2 big ones on the card here today. And then again, we get to see Alabama in action. Get to see some of these top teams, Ole Miss and Florida right now, the one on the move, which we'll get to in a little bit. All right, let's start in Charlottesville, Virginia first, where SMU has been bet this morning, Alex. So yesterday when I did the show with Vinny and Chris, this was SMU 10 on the road at Charlottesville in this game. And now, this morning, behind us, it's 10.5. That's the market low. There's 11. There's a lot of 11.5 right now on SMU. It's been a one-way ticket on the Ponies here tonight after, again, a week where they struggled but did win, did not cover against Boston College a week ago. Of course, Virginia got in the back door last week against Notre Dame.
I don't really know what to do with this Notre Dame team. They're 1-4.
Or you mean Virginia?
I mean, with this Virginia team,
Yeah.
they're 1-4 in their last 4 games. So I lean to SMU. I made this game 10.5. I didn't lay that big number, though. I do think it will be closer than expected. But SMU, they've got to take care of business here, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean they have to cover, but I do think it is the right side.
Ponies, of course, 9-1, undefeated in ACC play. They are the only unbeaten in conference play left in that conference. If they win out, they're expected to win today. They will be double digits at home against Cal next week. It will be into the ACC title game in year 1 for the Ponies, most likely against Miami, but we'll get to them in a little bit. Nothing for me here. This is a 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon game. I just want to see if SMU comes out flat. That would be the only thing that I would be potentially worried about. But because they were a little flat last week, I don't think we're seeing back-to-back flat spots for SMU. All right, let's go to Louisville next. One of the bigger shockers for Get Just of last week, of the entire season, where Louisville, 3-touchdown favorite against Stanford, gets beat outright in just horrific fashion, the way that Louisville lost that game at the end of regulation. And now they take on The back-to-reality Pitt Panthers, who have lost 3 in a row after their 7-0 start. And look, for Pitt, we still don't know who's at quarterback yet. Eli Holstein's been cleared, but it looks like, as of this moment, that it's going to be Yarnell for the second consecutive game as the starter. And Alex, I said it yesterday with Chris and Vinny. I would very much look if you can find that 7, and there are a lot of 7.5s. Now, I don't think we see 7 by this 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern kick, but I would very much be fine with laying 7.5, even on the wrong side of 7 with Louisville. Great bounce back spot. Pitt is reeling, and I just don't see. I don't see it with them. I thought they were lucky all year, and last week they did cover,
yes,
but they did not get there outright in the game they were leading with under 2 minutes to go.
That's right. And they did play tough against a Clemson team. I do think that was a letdown for Louisville after beating Clemson. That was their big game of the year. So I expected a bounce back here for the Cardinals as well. I stayed off of it, though, with the quarterback news, because I do think they should go back to Eli Holstein. He's done a great job for them all year. So I waited for that. But if it is Yarnell, I would be on the favorite here in this one.
Yeah, this is favorite for me. I don't have a lot of favorites today, but this is one of them that I do like in Louisville. I also don't mind betting this game over if Holstein somehow gets ruled in. If not, don't bother with it. Again, it does not look promising for Holstein at the moment. If he is, even if he is cleared, it looks like the Yarnell's going to get the nod regardless for Pitt. All right, let's go to Miami and Wake next. This one is at the top of the hour. This one opened 24, got as high as 24.5. Now back down the ladder to 23.5 with the Miami Hurricanes hosting the Deeks. Alex, the total's been more intriguing to me, 65 to 67. Now, we have not seen Miami since they were defeated for the first time by Georgia Tech. And I do not like laying this sort of lumber in a conference game, but this would be one of the times where I'd be okay laying this sort of lumber in a conference game where, look, you look at Miami's conference games, they haven't really destroyed anyone. I know, yes, they won the Duke game by 22. They beat Florida State by 22. But if you watch both of those games, they were losing the Duke game in the third quarter, and it was a monster comeback by Miami. They were down 10 in that third quarter against Florida State. It was really just one of those that was just sluggish. It was 17-7 at halftime. Florida State was just so inept that it didn't really matter. But they have not won a game by more than 22 in conference. It would not shock me if this is a one of those today. Also, I like, even at the bad number of the total, I don't mind going over in this game. I think Wake's capable of getting into the low 20s. If they get in the low 20s, we're getting there on over 67 today.
Confirmed Wake quarterback Hank Bachmeier is back.
That's the last note I had, Alex.
Okay, yeah, because he left the game early against UNC, but you're right with both of these teams trending to the over. Miami is 7-2-1 to the over, and Wake Forest 5-4-1. Wake really hasn't been very good if you've been betting them all year. 3-5-1 against the spread. I don't have a lot of faith in this team to cover even at this big number. I made Miami 26, so I don't hate that at all. It wasn't a play for me, but after a bye week, coming off a loss, I'm with you. Especially Cam Ward still in the conversation for Heisman. I mean, we have.
Yeah, he's still in the conversation. I don't think he's much of a shot, but two big games, why not?
Right, and these next 2 games are really big for Colorado. We'll see what happens there with Travis Hunter, and Ashton Genty's kind of out of it now. So Miami might really try to put on a show here in this one.
Well, that's the interesting thing. You bring up the Heisman race, which we'll actually just touch on real quick, because if you're just looking at odds right now, that for books that have that race up, they're telling you this race is over.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I necessarily agree with. Now, I'm not saying Colorado is going to lose today, and trust me, we'll get to that game later. But I don't think Travis Hunter should be minus 350. I think that's a little bit ridiculous. Genty, by the way, second favorite plus 380. Cam Ward's the third favorite at 13-1. And then Dylan Gabriel, who I think is very much live still at 25-1. Now, Gabriel only has 2 games left.
Yep.
They don't play this week. That actually hurts Gabriel's candidacy a little bit because they didn't play well in a victory against Wisconsin last week. But, boy, don't be laying minus 350 on Hunter. He may very well win. The market's telling you he will. But, boy, that is, especially if Colorado loses today, I guarantee you there are a lot of voters out there that are looking for reasons not to vote for Travis Hunter, even if he deserves to win the Heisman Trophy.
Well, and on the flip side, the market's also telling you they have enough tickets on Travis Hunter, right?
Too.
They don't want any more money on him in case he does win. So, yeah, might be a little bit of options to sprinkle.
Let's go to a game, actually, we did not touch yesterday with Chris and Vinny because there was not a lot of action, but both Alex and I are looking for a play in this one, and that's West Virginia on the road against Central Florida. And, it's pretty funny with West Virginia where Garrett Green misses 2 games. And it wasn't Garrett Green's fault last week because West Virginia's defense was awful.
Yes.
But they win the 2 games. They're in the third. They've scored 30 points in 3 straight games. They scored 30 without him both times. West Virginia's defense was much better, though, in those 2 games. And then last week against Baylor, Baylor 49-35. It's 7.5 yards of play for the Bears. And West Virginia fell. Now, this game in Morgantown, Alex, I don't really care who's at quarterback. I think the wrong team's favored here. I think this should have came probably pick or West Virginia 1. The market's actually going against West Virginia now. It's now Central Florida 3.5 behind us, still mostly 3, but that 3 and a hook is an awesome bet on the Mountaineers here. And look, if Central Florida beats you, they beat you. But I'm a little confused by this line the whole week.
I am too. We did see some improvement from UCF, right?
Yes.
A few weeks ago, they made some changes, offensive and defensive coordinator. They're also on their 4th quarterback here, and Dylan Risk, redshirt freshman, has played better for them. They had a big win over Arizona, but we know what this Arizona team is. And then they played Arizona State really tough, 35-31 loss to them. But still, I'm with you, and it's going to be a common theme for me, but we've got West Virginia here trying to make a bowl game. They're 5-5. They're at home. You're getting points. They're going to be highly motivated. And now Garrett Green has another game under his belt from coming back from that injury. And you brought up that Baylor game. I mean, offensively, they had 499 yards. They had 29 first downs. So, yeah, I think offensively they can hang in this one. Defensively, they really have to step up. But they're not going up against a really tough defense in UCF.
This is a very... This line, the only thing I can come up with is that the market is basically telling you, since Central Florida needs to win this week and next week to get to a bowl game, there's a little more motivation also. Yeah. But again, West Virginia is not bowl eligible quite yet. They're 5-5. They go to Lubbock next week. They'll be an underdog in that game. This is a pretty desperate spot for both of these teams. Again, I'll very happily take 3 and a hook with West Virginia.
Well, and West Virginia was right there last week. They already failed their first attempt to get a bowl game. So
Baylor got to win 6 last week and now won in Morgantown. All right, now to Alex White's favorite play of the whole week. North Carolina on the road at Boston College. I'll just be quick on my end. I took the 3. I looked at it all week, and I'm like, I just can't pass this up. Now, this is a pure number take for me at 3, more so than anything, with Boston College, just because North Carolina already bowl eligible. Boston College, we're now going the reverse of what I just said. North Carolina already bowl eligible. Boston College needs this game, needs one of the next 2 at home. There'll probably be a short under, pretty similar next week with Pitt, where Pitt will probably be a short road favorite like this. But you know what? Boston College was in that game all the way against SMU. They actually had the ball down 3 with 2 minutes to go and all their timeouts, and SMU's defense held. But this is a pure number take for me. I'm on the Eagles, getting the 3. Wouldn't shock me one bit if North Carolina wins by 3 and I get my money back, but I'm just taking points as opposed to money lining here.
I took the points as well. I will be on the money line here for Boston College, too, because I really like this team. I like what Bill O'Brien has done. They're tough. They run the football well. I know there's a quarterback change, but Grayson James gets better and better each week. So I like this side. On the flip side, with North Carolina, Jeff, I'm not saying that this is the reason, but I was watching Mac Brown videos, press conference from their last win and then leading up to this. There's a whole balloon arch behind him. Like, they're already celebrating. This team wasn't really expecting to get to a bowl game this year. They lost 4 in a row because they've just dealt with so many quarterback changes themselves. Finally found stability with Jacoby Criswell. So they've got their 6 wins. They've been celebrating. I'm take my chances here with Boston College, who's highly motivated, and they are very well coached.
Definitely very well coached. No argument there because O'Brien, again, I like Bill O'Brien. Again, it's just not a ton of talent here with this Boston College team. Be curious to see if he's able to get it going or get more talent. But you're right on James. I thought the Castellanos leaving was not going to be good news, and them picking James over Castellanos may have been a mistake. I was wrong because James played great last week. Just wasn't enough in the end on that. All right, I want to hit one more game, and then we'll take a short break here. Virginia Tech, Duke. Ann's team is a 3-point underdog here in this one against Va Tech. This is more likely than not going to be another number take for me. Especially, I wouldn't be shocked if we see 3.5 again by the time this game kicks. But this is just one of those. Again, Pry has been so bad in one-score games. If you take out if you flip the result of one-score games Virginia Tech has played this year, they'd be 10-1. Or excuse me, 9-1. 9-1. They'd win 9 out of 10. So their one-score record. Again, I'm no mathematician here, Alex White, but they have not won They have not won a single game by one score, and they're 5-5. So they're 0-4 in the one-score games this year. Their only multi-score loss came against Clemson last week, and that was a game they were leading 7-0 in that one. It would be only a take of Duke, who, again, has been pretty fortunate all year long, but if this game's close, Virginia Tech will likely, you know what, I might as well take the money line at that point, because if Duke's going to cover, they're probably going to win the game outright with how bad Va Tech's been in tight games.
Power rating-wise, my numbers say a lean to the favorite here with Virginia Tech. I did make them 4 here on the road, but I mean, Duke's been lucky. They've been unlucky, so I didn't jump in here. I assume Kyron Jones is playing with this number as well. He was questionable throughout the week, but him and they're getting a couple running backs back as well. Yep. So lean to the favorite for me.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we get into some of these big ones. Kansas, Colorado, Ole Miss, Florida, and much more, including Indiana, Ohio State, the game of the day. When we get back, Sports by the Book here on a Saturday.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in. Sports by the Book here on a Saturday. Jeff Parles, Alex White. We're thrilled to be with you as always. And you know what? Let's get back into these games. And we start with, Indiana, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Army. Yes, these are big games. I don't know how good Army Notre Dame will be, but we'll get to that later in the show. This one that we're going to now in Kansas City. Kansas hosts Colorado. Kansas needs to win their last 2 to get to 6 wins. They started 1-6. They've won 3 in a row since that horrible start. 3 out of 4, I should say, since the 1-5 start, I should say. And now the Buffs on the Colorado end of things, who, of course, were left for dead after getting annihilated early in the year by Nebraska. I was like, oh, Deion, this is not working. He's heading for getting fired at the end of the all that noise. And Colorado, to their credit, it all started with the Hail Mary against Baylor.
Yep.
Since then, their only loss is a 3-point loss at home to Kansas State before the wheels came off of the Wildcats. And now they will play the other Kansas team here. And Alex, this is, to me, the most fascinating game of the entire day because this line has toggled all week. Open 2, then 2.5, then 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3, 2.5, 3, 2.5. That's a lot of moves between 2.5 and 3. So we know that our friends behind the counter back there don't need this game to land Colorado 3. Any other result seems okay. I'm curious your thoughts because I'm still trying to figure out what to do with this game.
Well, I kind of went against my number. I made Colorado 1.5 here on the road, but I took Colorado money line. I think by the end of this game, talent is going to win out here. And Kansas you got to give them credit because they really, they playing spoiler. They're playing much better. Jalen Daniels is playing better. I still don't fully trust him, though. He still had an interception in 2 of the last 3 games. They were just fortunate to win the last 2. On the other side, Shedeur Sanders is having an outstanding year, completing 73% of his passes, 8.4 yards per attempt, 27 passing touchdowns to just 7 INTs. So I do think Colorado will find a way to win this game.
So my lean here is actually to the total here. And I'm going backwards from what you'd probably expect. I think this is an under game. Now, you look at those two offenses like, all right, well, why are we looking at an under game here? You look at what Kansas has done against higher end opponents this year on their schedule, and it's a little bit weird because it's a little bit of a mixed bag here. But last week was 30 total points against BYU. The game against UNLV earlier in the year, 43 total points.
I didn't even know there was that many.
Illinois, 40. So, again, you can go against me on this because against Arizona State, it was 35-31. The Kansas State game actually would have gone under this total because it was 29-27. So, this feels like a game that's played in the mid-20s or maybe the high 20s. And even if we get 31-28, I'm no mathematician, 31-28 is 59, 59.5 is good to the under. I just feel like this is going to be a grinder game, and there's not going to be a lot of possessions because in order for Kansas to win the game, they got to tire out Colorado's defense and keep Shedeur Sanders and company off the field. And the more defensive plays you have for Travis Hunter also means the less effective he'll likely be on offense. Now, granted, that hasn't worked much because he's a cyborg, but I like the under. I like the under. If you told me Kansas wins this game outright, no shock. You tell me Colorado wins this game by 17, won't be surprised either. Under's the play for me in this game.
Kansas has been running the ball very well, and they're running it the 34th most in the country, 58%. So they're going to try and establish their run game early and stretch out these drives. Yeah,
last week was a super weird game. It's actually the only time this year BYU's been unlucky when you look at it. Again, a pooch punt by the quarterback, drilling a gunner in the helmet to result in the game-winning touchdown 2 plays later. Yeah, that's bad luck for BYU and good luck for Kansas. So the shoe was on the other foot for both teams in that one last week. All right, now we go to one where the bettors are just bludgeoning the favorite in this one. Ole Miss on the road at Florida. Alex, it opened 10, which I thought was a pretty good number, in all honesty. And it's up to 13. Now, I know there's questions with DJ Lagway's health, even though, to be honest with you, looked pretty darn good last week against LSU. I'm a little bit perplexed by this move. Now, could Ole Miss win this game by 3 touchdowns? Yes, of course they could. They're capable of blowing anyone out in the country. We already saw in a similar spot earlier in the year where they went to Columbia, South Carolina, and drilled a good South Carolina team 28-3. But this is a little out of control at this point. We even saw some 13.5 in the market earlier today. At this number, this is only a take on Florida. You can't lay a bad number with Ole Miss at this point.
And I am on Florida. I did take the 13 here. I like this Gators team. They're tough. They fight till the end of every game. And when we've seen the last 2 full games with DJ Lagway, they beat Kentucky 48-20, which is very impressive for a very good defense. And then they beat LSU last week, who beat Ole Miss already. So that's going to be part of the motivational speech that they can hang around in this one. So as long as DJ Lagway is healthy and stays, remember they were leading against Georgia in that first half before we didn't see him in the second half. So I'm with you, though. This could be a blowout. We've seen it from Ole Miss, and they are a very, very good team on both sides of the football. But it's the offense with Florida, and I think they can hang around in this.
If Lagway is able to make plays, this will be uncomfortable for Ole Miss. I'm not saying Florida at plus 425 is a bet. No way.
Agreed.
No way. I don't think Ole Miss blows this game, especially since it would probably have to take the same game script of the Kentucky game. And I just don't think Ole Miss will find a way to lose if that's the case. But boy, if you're telling me Jackson Dart has to lead a game-winning drive at the end in a tie game or down 3, I wouldn't be totally stunned if that's the case here. And again, I wouldn't be stunned if Ole Miss is up 20. We look up at halftime and it's 24-3. So a wide variance here in this one. All right, let's go to Middle America next. Nebraska hosting Wisconsin. It's kind of shown where both of these programs are at right now, where they're both 5-5, so the winner goes to a bowl game. The loser has to win next week. Wisconsin plays Minnesota. Nebraska plays Iowa, so I don't love either of those next week. So the Huskers 1.5-point favorites at home in this one against Wisconsin. Total 41.5. Alex, I would only lean to the home team in this one, but this is a very tough game between two teams that are just pretty disappointing when it's all said and done.
Yeah, my numbers actually say Nebraska, which is surprising. I feel like I haven't really figured out this Wisconsin team, so I didn't jump in. But I do think 2 weeks under their new offensive coordinator, they looked better last week against USC. They did lose that one by 7, but I think at home here, I would go with the favorite if you made me play it.
Dana Holgerson, of course, a former West Virginia and Houston head coach, took over the play calling. Yeah, I agree with you. They were better in that game, but they still found a way to lose against USC last week in the Coliseum. All right, let's go to Minneapolis next. The Gophers of Minnesota taking on Penn State. And Alex, I'll just tell you this. So we went through this a little bit yesterday with Penn State's conference road games. So they're going to end up playing 4 conference road games. Some end up with 5 in the Big Ten because of the unbalanced 9. Penn State on the road in conference this year. Last week they beat Purdue by 39. How much can we possibly take from that? Basically nothing. The other 2 games, they really struggled. Now, the final score against Wisconsin doesn't show struggle, 28-13, but Penn State was down at the half. Drew Aller got hurt. And of course, Bo Perbula came in and saved the day for Penn State. And then the Lions were only up 14-13 going to the fourth quarter in that one. And then the other one was that game in L.A. where they were in a 17-point hole against USC and ended up winning in overtime 33-30. Minnesota's coming off a loss. That's the last time they played. They lost that game to Rutgers 2 weeks ago. And Alex, I am on the 11.5. I also have a piece at plus 375 over at Superbook on Minnesota. Now, Penn State, everyone's argument about Indiana, I think should also go for Penn State as well. Who have they beaten this year? They haven't beaten anyone that's any good. The only good team they played was in their house, and they lost to Ohio State. Yeah, it was sort of coin flippy, but it's a game Penn State probably should have won, but found a way to lose because Franklin doesn't beat top-tier teams. We know this. But this just feels like such a trappy game for Penn State where it's like, hey, we have an easy game next week against Maryland, too. This isn't that good of an opponent. We just win these last 2 games. We're in a college football playoff with ease. But this feels trappy to me. The 11.5 is my favorite play of the whole day. plus 375, a little bit of a sprinkle as well.
I could be stretching a little bit still here, but I still think USC is considered a good team, especially going there.
They're talented.
They've just lost a bunch of one-score
talented.
games, so their record would be a lot different if they won those one-score games. But I think mine correlates with you because it's a lean to the dog, definitely, especially coming off that loss. But I went with the under here. I went under 45 and a half. Minnesota's defense is really good, and that's what's not really talked about a lot. They're 11th right now in the country in total yards allowed, and they're 5th in yards per play allowed, just holding opponents to 4.3. So if they're going to hang around in this one, their defense definitely has to show up. But this is another team I think is very well coached. I like how they run the ball and run out the clock and play really tough defense. So I like the under in this one.
No problem with that. With this 17-13, some ugly score like that wouldn't shock me one bit in this one. By the way, real quick, I just want to go back to a game that we talked about already because Pete Thamel reporting that Eli Holstein will start for Pitt today. Okay. So that we've been waiting on. That number hasn't moved yet. So let's see what the market might have already been assuming Holstein is going to play, even though Pitt has been coy this week. But again, if that hits 7, I would still bet that with Louisville, even with Holstein in now.
That's also, why I stayed off of it.
Also, that over also looks good now with Eli Holstein in as well. All right. Let's go to the big game of the day. This was voted the game of the week by the poll yesterday. Indiana goes to Ohio State. And this game starts at the top of the hour. And this has been a mover this week, Alex White. Open 12.5. Chris and company moved it to 13. Then it's been a steady stream over the last 48 hours on Indiana. We're down to 10.5 here at the South Point. Total's 53.5. Alex, I'm curious your thoughts on this one, which is the biggest football game in the history of Indiana University.
And my numbers say to lay it with Ohio State at home here. I made Ohio State 14, but I have not jumped in yet because what Indiana has done is really impressive. 8-2 against the spread, 9-1, depending on what number you got in that first week. But I'm going to play this in game, and more so than the side, Jeff, I want to play the total. If it's a slow start, I want to jump in on the over. I think both of these offenses can get going. Both of these quarterbacks have such impressive numbers. I mean, both of them are pretty much at 10 yards per attempt. Rourke, 21 passing touchdowns, just 4 INTs. And then on the other side, Will Howard, 24 with 5 INTs. So I think both offenses are going to get going. Even though I know both defenses are very good, I think they're going to have to get creative and we'll see some points. So I'm hoping to get at least under or at least a 50, and then I'll go over in game.
I'm just interested to see what Indiana looks like here because again, I understand the criticism. Oh, you haven't played anyone. I get it. But then where's all this noise for Penn State when the only good team again, you and I differ a little bit on USC, but when the only truly highly rated team they played beat them in their building, why, if Indiana loses as a similar, let's say Indiana loses by 7 here today, like Penn State did against Ohio State in their building, and Indiana does this in the shoe, why are we not considering Indiana, at least from a poll perspective, on par with Penn State?
You know what's funny, too, is it's double standards here with Michigan because some teams, a Michigan win is really good, right? But they're not really using that for Indiana.
Yeah, no, well, again, I don't think they should use it for anyone personally, but you're not wrong. By the way, we'll get to Michigan in a second. If Indiana wins this game, and I'm not saying they will, Indiana's going to be a 5-touchdown favorite next week against Purdue, or not 5-touchdown, a 4-score favorite against Purdue next week at home. And with a real chance, again, if Indiana goes 12-0 in the regular season, they play 12-0 Oregon in the Big Ten title game. The winner of that's getting the number 1 overall seed in the college football playoff, which is pretty wild to say. But, I'm waiting in game. I'm with you. I want to see how this game plays out. I want to see how Indiana looks before anything in this game, and I would be looking to attack that total especially if we get sub 50, because I think this game is getting played like somewhere in the pocket of 28, 24, 31, 21, something in that pocket where we're going to need the better number in order to get over in this one. What a good game. Rourke.
Yes.
Again, it'll be interesting to see also on the Ohio State side, can they turn Will Howard over? If they can turn Will Howard over, then Indiana's got a shot to win this game outright in the shoe.
And the O-line injuries, right?
Yeah.
So
center is out for the rest of the season for Ohio State.
So we'll see how this goes.
All right, I want to hit these two Big Ten games that are nowhere near as good as this one in succession quickly here, Alex. Rutgers is 2 against Illinois. This is at the top of the hour. I kind of want to bet the Illini if we see a 3 by the time this game starts. I don't think we will, so this is a stay off for me with a total of 48. You're smiling here.
Well, even at 2 now, I would like to bet them because they opened the favorite, and the bettors are just, it's funny. They really like Rutgers. They really don't like Illinois, right? They've been betting against them, and they've had a couple losses, but I think they've been the more consistent team than Rutgers. Rutgers has been so up and down, and that makes it hard to handicap going into this week. But I think you have the better quarterback with Luke Altmaier with Illinois as well.
Rutgers playing much better.
They are. They really are. And it's scary because when you have that ranked number there and they're not the favorite.
That's usually a good sign for the unranked team when that's the case.
Yes.
All right, Michigan and Northwestern, this is down to 10.5 now, and the total's down to 35. I'll be honest with you. I don't know how either of these teams are going to score more than 14 in this game. I know it's the worst of the number. I know it's absurdly low. I know a defensive touchdown really throws us in peril. But if you want to go under this ridiculously low number, I can't really fault you for this.
No, and I was looking to play this under as well. I did make it right there. My dad's number was a lot lower, though. So I think under is a good move. I would only play the favorite here with Michigan, and I know that's scary laying that 10.5. But, I mean, Northwestern's median right now, points in conference play is 14 to 24. So,
oh, boy.
Yeah.
That's not fun. All right, let's go to Salt Lake next. Utah. Who had Utah needing to win their last 2 games to get bowl eligible? Then not looking good because they're a 6.5-point dog at home against Iowa State today. Total 42. This has been a bouncer. Opened 6, got as high as 7.5, and now has come back down the ladder to 6.5. Alex, this Iowa State team's inconsistent. They're on the road, though, but I will say this. After the first 5 minutes against Colorado last week, Utah just got crushed. And it really felt like that game against BYU was like, all right, if they're going to make a bowl, they got to get this one and then find a way to probably steal the game here today or in Orlando next week. And they lost that game to BYU, obviously, in just infuriating fashion if you were a Ute backer that day on the money line. I would not be shocked if Iowa State rolls them here. I just think Utah, this is just a season from hell because of the quarterback injuries and the offensive injuries. And their tight end's also out for the rest of the year, too, Kunst. This is just a mess for Utah.
Looking at the numbers, I did make Iowa State just 7.5 here. It was kind of looking at Utah taking the points. They probably are not going to give up on Whittingham. They're going to still play tough. They have a good defense. But then when I was looking at more of their performance score that I've been doing weekly, I've got Iowa State 11 points better than Utah. So I'm glad that I have done that this year because that kept me off of the dog.
Well, we thought this game might be huge for Big 12 championship implications at the beginning of the year. No one had this next game being gigantic for Big 12 championship game implications, and there it is on your screen. The Sun Devils and the BYU Cougars, the Arizona State Sun Devils. Yeah, as we all expected going into the year, teams are projected in the bottom 5 of this league. And the winner of this game is more likely than not going to the Big 12 title game. If BYU wins, they are going, barring some weird wonkiness with the tiebreakers. Arizona State wins, they'll have to win next week, but they're going to be a nice size favorite in the Territorial Cup against Arizona. Even with the game in Tucson. Alex Togler all week, 3.5, 3 all week long here at the South Point and even in the market right now. If you want 3.5 with BYU, you got to come here because this is the only 3.5 here in Vegas. That's a flat 3.5. If you like ASU, go elsewhere because there's a lot of 3s in the market right now.
I heard Chris Andrews say on yesterday's show he thought this game should be a pick, and I was happy to hear that because I agree with him. And, if Arizona State covers and wins this game, I will go back and adjust my numbers. But even looking at their performance scores, which have not been – they're just based off of numbers strictly. There's nothing, in my opinion, or even looking at box scores. BYU 7 points better than Arizona State. I think they've been very fortunate. They've had a pretty easy Big 12 schedule to get to this point. They do run the ball very well, and Sam Levitt has been good enough for them offensively. just 4 INTs, but they have also been very fortunate with the turnovers. They are plus 10. They've won all but 3. They've won the turnover battle. And in those 3 games where they were even or lost, they're just 1-2 straight up and against the spread. So they've been a pretty fortunate team. I know BYU has as well, but I'll take my chances and take the points here.
I'm staying off of this game because we all know my thoughts on BYU, but this actually is not a bad matchup for BYU's defense because if you slow down Scatterbo, you have a real chance of winning this game. Now, the problem is, again, I don't trust Jake Retzlaff. I haven't all year. And you're going on the road to the biggest game that goodness, it's been a long time since Arizona State's played a game this big. So, honestly, both of these teams, same sort of deal. But, oh boy, I want to watch this in game because I feel like we're going to be able to get one of these sides more than a touchdown at some point in this game, and now would be the time to hop in, regardless of which side it is getting more than a touchdown. Because this feels like max winning margin is 6, more likely than not, one way or another, or 7, one way or another here in this one. All right. Real quick on this one, I just wanted to bring this up. Mizzou's at Mississippi State. We didn't bring this up on the show yesterday. I have a bet on this game. I actually laid it with my alma mater. I took Mizzou -8. I actually thought this should have come higher. I thought this should have come double digits. Now that we know Brady Cook is healthy and capable of playing, Missouri's, again, they've not been as good as you would have hoped coming into the year, but they're still much better than this Mississippi State team. I thought this should have come 11.5, 12. Very happily lay 8 with Mizzou like I did earlier in the week.
If there was one favorite in the SEC today, it would be Mizzou here against Mississippi State. This feels like a game that they really, take advantage of a lesser opponent. And Mississippi State, they've been very competitive in their SEC games, but Mizzou has a lot to make up for. So I think they'll take advantage and win by a couple touchdowns. Mizzou has not beaten Mississippi State since moving to the SEC. Granted, they've only played twice, but they haven't beat them yet since Mizzou moved to the SEC in 2012. All right, let's go to Kansas State next. Cincinnati taking on the Wildcats of K-State. 8.5 on this one, Alex. There's some 9 in the market. There was 9 here at the open. This 9, 8.5, 8, 8.5. 54 to total. This, I kind of like this game. Now that I've thought about it a little bit more and the market has actually played it this way, even at the worst of the number, I don't mind this game over the 54. Would have liked 52.5 earlier in the week, but this feels like a higher scoring game, especially after that clunker on offense K-State played last week. Wow. And I was ready to back K-State again here, laying the points, but I couldn't get there, especially looking at Cincinnati, and I know it's kind of been a bad spiral, but really they lost to 3 good teams in the conference, Colorado, West Virginia, and Iowa State. So they could come alive here, and it would be offensively. Their defense is not very good, 84th overall in total yards allowed, so K-State definitely has them beat on that side of the ball, but if they can hang in there offensively, so I don't mind your over at all. Shout out in the chat real quick, Alex, to Mark, who's in there, and Scott, and a few names a few new names as well in there. We appreciate you for watching us here on this Saturday morning. We're getting you ready for the next to last regular season Saturday of the college football season. Vinny Magliulo, who will be with us in a few moments, as always says, don't blink. I know. And don't blink on a college football season. Even with an extra week, this thing has motored on through. All right, let's go pivot back to the SEC. Texas hosting Kentucky. Now, I said on the show yesterday, if this thing goes to 21, that I was all ready to bet back to 21 because it opened 21, ready to go back on the Cats. Well, I'm going to be out of luck on that one because the market bet Kentucky this morning down to 19. And, I think the move is right. I thought this should probably come. Now, granted, Texas, obviously much more talented. Kentucky, of course, remember, went to Ole Miss and won earlier this year. They had Georgia on the ropes as well in that 13-12 game where Mark Stoops punted inexplicably and they never got the ball back. I'm not gonna take it because it's a bad number now, but don't be surprised if Texas really messes around in this game, especially with this being the classic look-ahead spot with A&M on deck next week. I'm not confident in this Kentucky team anymore. And earlier in the season, it was like they're really good defensively. You know, they hung in there. They almost beat Georgia. They lost 13-12. They upset Ole Miss 2017. Since then, Jeff, it's kind of been a mess. I don't know if it's the same mentality. This team is ready to go, but they lost to Vandy, lost to Florida 48-20. That's the really alarming one. Tennessee played close 28-18, but I really just don't trust this team against this more talented Texas team. So nothing for me in this one at all. I'm not even comfortable laying the points though with the Longhorns here.
Yeah. What do you think of the total? Because under might not be terrible here.
Yeah, I think that is what my number said. Yep, I've got 43.5, but did not play that one either.
All right, let's go to one that I know this game coming up next is a square versus sharp game. And boy, wow, this thing just keeps moving with Auburn hosting Texas A&M. Again, look ahead spot for the Aggies. All right, Alex, this legitimately just moved behind us. Like legitimately in the last 30 seconds, my screen just turned red as we were going to this. It's now 1.5 in this game behind us. There's a lot of one now on this.
Wow.
Now, we talked about this last week. Auburn has been the most unlucky, going into last week, most unlucky team in America. The numbers are now a little bit different. Central Florida technically hopped them as the unluckiest. Is that technically hot? I guess it's technically hopping, but Central Florida now slightly more unlucky than Auburn has been this year. A&M, they have been better than I think any of us imagined with the win-loss record this year. I really thought this was going to take time for Elko to get that culture right. They're 8-2. If they win these last 2 games during the SEC title game for the first time ever, explain this one to me like I'm not around here because I'm not around it every day because I think this is a little too aggressive. I understand backing Auburn on a money line at a good money line price at the beginning of the week. Now, if you're taking Auburn like even money line +1, like I don't really get that at this rate.
I don't either. And I've heard like with the power ratings and Texas A&M opening -1 that is correct for the power ratings. I don't have Auburn that close to Texas A&M. So, and I even went back and looked at their performance score. I'd still have a 7-point difference here. So I understand Auburn has been unlucky and they've been competitive in these games, but I just think Texas A&M has proven to this point that they are a higher rated team. So nothing for me in this one. I lean to the favorite here, especially now that we're getting even lower and lower. And don't you think, Jeff, it's probably a good thing that Mike Elko kind of had that slip up in the press conference? A lot of people are saying, I mean, he pretty much just admitted that he's been looking ahead to Texas. Well, that's kind of a wake up moment for him and for his team. And then to, okay, refocus 1 game at a time. We have Auburn ahead of us.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's like, he's already said it. It's like,
yeah,
now it's brought to his attention as well.
It's interesting on that where, look, I mean, A&M and Texas haven't played since A&M left for the SEC in 2012. This has been, look, talk about 2 schools that despise each other and fan bases that despise each other. A&M and Texas lead the list of everywhere in the country at this rate. So, it is for both of these teams. It's funny we got them back to back here, but it is a look ahead spot. And all I'll say is if A&M loses today, I am fascinated to see what that line comes next week. And I can tell you right now, if that line gets inflated, if A&M were to get upset today, I will absolutely be on the Aggies next week in an inflated line spot if that happens to be the case. Because look, what I said about Penn State earlier, I feel that way about Texas. They played one good team this year. Georgia whipped them. Michigan, not good when it's all said. Now look at all the other teams they got in conference. They drew the weakest schedule. And Vanderbilt ended up being their best win in conference so far.
I see, and that's one of the ones I think they're using Michigan as a good win.
Yeah, well, they definitely are.
Yeah.
100%. No argument there.
I'm glad you brought that up because you forgot to mention that with the Texas and Kentucky game. But it is a look-ahead spot for them as well.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you're the
definitely.
first person
Yeah.
I heard say that yesterday. Everybody's all
is.
over Auburn for A&M, but not on the other side.
It is. I look, again, that's why I like Kentucky plus the points in that game. Again, even it's the worst of the number right now, but Texas winning that game by like 27-17.
Yeah.
Like that makes a lot of sense. That is just one of the sluggish games where A&M just does enough, and Kentucky just can't keep up on offense. All right, I want to hit one more Texas game before we bring Vinny in. Baylor and Houston, 7.5 now in this one, down from 8, 51 to total. This would only be a take of the underdog for me. Baylor's bowl eligible already. Maybe a little bit of a flat spot for BU. Houston needs to win their last 2 in order to stun and get to a bowl game. Now, granted, I would be shocked if they went to BYU and won next week. But, hey, look, you never know. You never know in this wonky Big 12 here in 2024.
I can't get in front of Baylor, though. It would be a take on the dog here, especially getting that hook there. But, I mean, their last 4 games have just been so impressive since their bye week. Defensively, they have struggled. But offensively, I mean, the numbers they put up. And I tried last week with West Virginia, and that didn't go well. So, nothing for me in this one.
Vinny Magliulo's here.
I'm here. Moving equipment. Excuse me.
Moving equipment? No, there's not enough wires over there for you. You know that. So,
man.
Vinny, I just want to ask you real quick, because we're about 10 minutes away, what with this 9 a.m. window, which obviously is led by Indiana and Ohio State, my screen has been a lot more. It's always colorful on a Saturday
Pretty
morning,
active.
but it's been super colorful here this morning, Vinny.
Well, particularly you mentioned the Indiana Ohio State game, which is down to 10.5, right?
Yep.
Money showing for the Hoosiers. Reshuffled offensive line for the Buckeyes in this game. So, and again, 2 weeks to get ready for Indiana. But great game, terrific action, 53.5 for the total, which is up, even up since Chris and I were with you yesterday, Jeff. So,
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, you've got terrific games to get things rolling, right? But I mean, that's the one everybody's involved with, right? But you know, SMU and Virginia, everybody's still interested in SMU to see if they can keep things going, and they're up to 10.5. You know, yesterday it had toggled a little bit during the week between 9.5 and 10, but now more money showing for the Mustangs in that game. I've got to tell you, it's North Carolina, Boston College. North Carolina down to 2.5. Jeff, I think you mentioned yesterday that you liked Boston College in this game, right? Or Alex, do you?
Both of us do.
You do. Yeah. Both of you. All right, one-way action at the desk, but that's all right. That and then you know, that's all these games, which will lead into a terrific midday card at 12:30, and then my goodness. The 4:30 games.
Well, the 4:30 games, and we'll get to a bunch of them in a minute. But rotation numbers actually take us to later in the day first here, Vinny, where USC and UCLA, the greatest uniform battle in college football now, at the Rose Bowl. You know, both of these teams, UCLA, again, not expected to do much of anything, playing much better football of late.
Yeah.
They're going to be a favorite against Fresno State next week. So with a win today, an opportunity to make it to a bowl game in year one and for Deshaun Foster would be an amazing accomplishment with all that turnover. And for USC, they need one more win to get to bowl eligibility, which is a monster disappointment for them with all the expectations they had this year. 4.5 with USC on the road and going to Pasadena, where there's not a ton of home field advantage for UCLA, Alex.
And that's one of the main parts right there is can't give UCLA home advantage in this one. I laid it with USC. This is one of my favorite bets of the day. I think that they are going to roll here and be bowl eligible by the end of this. Jaden Mayava passed for 259 last week, had 3 touchdowns, ran for another. I think he will just get even more comfortable in this offense for the Trojans. I don't want to take anything away because UCLA, Deshaun Foster, they have been impressive, but I just think at the end of the day, USC is the more talented football team. It's been a disappointing year. They have to take care of business here against this rival.
Yeah, I mean, listen, UCLA has played much better in the last month, as Jeff mentioned. You bring up a great point, Alex. And the more I'd say the more talented team overall, particularly at the skill positions, is SC. Put NIL aside and then transfer portal aside for a minute. When you look at recruiting in the country, right, you've got Georgia, Florida, Texas, and Southern California, right? I mean, there's other areas, but those are the concentrated areas. This is a huge recruiting game, right, for these two schools. So, but has not come down from the 4.5 that we did see yesterday. Open 4, it's been 4.5 for the better part of the week. So pretty balanced, maybe a 2-way so far. At that particular number. Will that change? Probably. By the way, I mean, if you look at the position of this game from a time perspective, it's 7:15 local time. That's a great position there, and it's only going to add to the handle on this game today. So this will be one of the higher handle games that we see today.
Don't usually weird things happen at that window, that 7:30.
Strange goings on, Alex.
All right, let's on that note, let's move to the next one. LSU and Vandy.
Yeah.
Vinny, they're betting LSU this morning.
Yeah, up to 8.5.
Mm-hmm. I just say it again. Bet against Vandy at your own peril at this rate, and especially with all that noise with LSU right now. We got awful performances the last 2 weeks, getting destroyed by Bama, losing at Florida. Reports of Brian Kelly losing the locker room. Underwood, their big recruit, flips from LSU to Michigan earlier in the week. The vibes are really bad at LSU right now. And Vanderbilt has defied every expectation this year on the board. Bet against them at your own peril. I'm not saying Vandy's going to win the game outright, but you're giving me more. Now that you're giving me more than a touchdown and a 2-point conversion in this game, I'll very happily take that with Vanderbilt, Alex.
You just said it perfectly. My number does say LSU. I have them 12 in this game, but I did not. I don't want to go against Vandy here and all that noise.
I know you've mentioned in this with Arizona State. Have you been able to adjust correctly for Vanderbilt just because how high above expectations they've been this year?
No, you might be right. They might not be high enough yet.
Well, it might not be just an adjustment. It's just when you hit on a key point, both of you, and that is the vibe. Which team has the better vibe right now? Maybe it's a wait-and-see approach or a pass. Remember, sometimes, the best bet is the one you don't make.
That's always true.
Right? I mean, but you can still – I mean, obviously we're going to book it, and money's showing for LSU simply from I think, it's a talent standpoint. Do they rally?
Right.
They're at home. It's a night game. As well, so which is even more of a home field advantage for them, although they didn't play out that way against Alabama. But all those things said, maybe it's a wait and see, just to watch it, if not for the in-game or the second half, but for next week, right? And to see how both of these teams respond. But certainly, there's a lot of negativity going on right now in Baton Rouge.
It's not pretty right now.
No, it's not.
Not pretty at all right now in Baton Rouge, for certain on that. All right, let's go to the Mountain West, Alex. Boise State is a huge favorite in Laramie, high elevation. You know that, against Wyoming, who's been a mess for the most part this year. 22.5 and 55.5 on this one for Boise, who is, again, coasting into the Mountain West title game. This is their final conference game because they get Oregon State next week.
So I did get a good number here because I went under 57.
Okay.
You got to be careful. You got to pick your spots with unders in Boise State. I even remember 2 weeks ago with Nevada, you kind of cringed when I said an under with Boise State. But
got there.
It did get there. And Wyoming, as they have been a disappointment, but they have been better in conference. So on the year, points allowed 31, at home 25, in conference 25.5. So I think that defensively they're going to step up in this one, and there is wind. That's the first and foremost for this under, projected to be 12 to 15 mile per hour. So if we can take a little bit away from Madsen and they can stack the box and be ready for Genty, then I think this plays into the under. And we forgot about a running back that they haven't had for most of their year that they have finally gotten back with Harrison. So I think they'll rely on him in their run game as well.
Yeah, good, Alex. I mean, you got under a good number there because the total's down 3 points, particularly off the opener. So, but here look, Boise just to trying to be efficient, take care of business, not a real difficult spot. Some elevation, yeah, I get it. Cold, but they're very similar climates, right, for both these teams. I don't think it's going to present too much of a problem for Boise. But look, Wyoming is it's a tough place to get to, tough place to play, and with 3 touchdowns, it did come down from 23. 23 was taken, which didn't really surprise us.
Not much of a shock on that one. All right, let's go to the big game in the primetime window, and this would make college football great. Army and Indiana playing the two of the 3 biggest games of the day here today. And Army, undefeated, head to the Bronx in Yankee Stadium to take on Notre Dame, who's, and quite frankly, this is as big as it is. Can you imagine if Notre Dame actually held in that ridiculous game against Northern Illinois? We were talking about undefeated Army against the number 1 team in the country almost.
Yeah.
Number 2, maybe even the number 1 team in the country. And Notre Dame on the thing. Not power ratings wise, Vinny, I know.
No,
but Notre Dame could very easily be number 1 over Oregon if they had not blown that game, as ridiculous as that may be. 14, toddler all week. Vinny, you just need this game to avoid landing Irish by 14, and you guys get a reasonable result.
Right, they get to 14.5 here. Listen, the thing about Notre Dame, too, since that Northern Illinois game is that we know they're scoring points, right?
Yeah.
But they're scoring points because their defense is one of the best takeaway teams in the country in the last 6 weeks. So that's what happened in the Navy game, right? Similar to the other Academy game where I think Notre Dame forced 5 turnovers in that game. So here's the key for Army, right? And if you're betting Army today, you want to avoid that type of situation where Notre Dame's defense, which is playing great, puts just gets the ball and keeps giving it to their offense, which is scoring quite a bit now. So, but a good game. Certainly, I could tell you this: the location from a backing standpoint, a fan backing standpoint, is going to favor Notre Dame. Anytime they're in that northeast area or wherever they go, they travel so well. But we saw it in East Rutherford. We'll see it again here at Yankee Stadium. 45 for the total. Has not moved that much. Just kind of hovered between 44 and 45.
You bring up a great point, Vinny. With Army, if you expect them to hang in this game, they are running number 1 most in the country at 87%. They also are the slowest team, 33.9 seconds per play. So you're expecting them to draw out these drives here. But I thought I was adjusting my Army Navy as they were going on these win streaks. I was aggressively adjusting my service academies, trying to match the books. I still have Notre Dame 20 here, but I did not lay it. I haven't done anything, but it would only be with the favorite for me.
I'm already on the favorite. I know Army is better than Navy, but we already saw this once this year. Undefeated Service Academy, who haven't really played particularly a good schedule, sees a team that's a legitimate top 10 team in Notre Dame, and the top 10 team just out-talents them like crazy.
And so much bigger. The size advantage is significant here.
And look, Army's had an amazing season.
Great.
If Army wins the American Athletic and goes 12-1 with a win over Navy, that's as good of a season as you can possibly ask for them. But the undefeated ride ends today with Notre Dame. All right, 2 we want to get to before we get out of here. Alabama, Oklahoma, just showing how bad of a year OU's having. Vinny, you guys are at 13.5. After being at 14, so they finally took the 14 off you again. There is still some 14 in the market on this game. Actually, someone in the studio actually took a piece of Alabama to be the highest scoring team in college football today at 50-1, Vinny.
50-1. There it is.
So someone might have done that.
Somebody?
Yeah.
All right.
Someone might have done that.
Well, we may see you at the return visit to the window.
We'll see. But Oklahoma, to me, I would only, again, another big favorite I like in this one. Oklahoma's terrible, and I don't know how they're going to score in this game. That's the biggest problem.
That's the key, right? Because their defense is on the field. Their offense is so bad that their defense is on the field for a better part of the game. So, 2 touchdown favorite here for Alabama, who's can't afford another loss in terms of the playoff picture.
I only made Bama 8.5 though here against Oklahoma, and I did give them full home field because they will have their fans there still.
Oh, sure.
It's a good defense with Brett Venables. It is surprising, but their defense has been very good this year. They lost by 12 to Ole Miss, who we think is on the same level, if not better than Alabama. So I mean, if they can hang around and slow them down, but it's small take for me on this 14 here
14,
with the dog.
yeah.
And then the last one, Mountain West, for UNLV, who won and covered last night in San Jose in the slop. They need a Fresno State victory here today. As a 3-point favorite, the Bulldogs are at home against the undefeated in conference Colorado State Rams. If Colorado State pulls the upset today, Colorado State is going to be a nice-sized favorite in Fort Collins next week against Utah State, which would honestly be the scenario that I don't think the Mountain West wants. UNLV was in the top 25 this week by the College Football Playoff Committee. They want to see UNLV and Boise State 2.0 on the blue turf in 2 weeks. I like Fresno in this game. This is not just me going for what's better for, well, forget locally, but better for the league. I just think Fresno State, even with their problems, is still the better team here. Colorado State hasn't played anyone. Legitimately, no one. And the only two good teams they played this year, Texas beat them by a zillion, and Colorado manhandled them. And even though the score wasn't that big of a blow, it was 28-9. But this Colorado State team is not any good, and I think Fresno beats them here today, Alex.
I made Fresno 6. I did not touch this game. I'm rooting for you, Jeff, and for Fresno to get this win.
Lane 3, taking 3.5 with the Rams, and Fresno also playing for bowl eligibility in this one.
Good.
Need a win.
Vinny, before we go,
Yep.
Did the folks bet Yale Harvard today?
Well, they always, there's always a little sentimental Ivy League
6.5
action
in that game today against Yale at the
it's the game.
The game on television right now in our studio on ESPN.
Just kicked off,
just kicking off. I will tell you, I almost.
Who did you take? Who did you
I
go
actually
with?
dabbled in the FCS today. It's too late to get it in. I apologize because I forgot to mention it. I did a money line parlay with two of the oldest rivalries in college football. Laid two favorites. Money line paid about plus 110.
Okay.
Harvard with Lehigh.
With Lehigh.
Yes.
All right. The
Look,
Engineers.
Lehigh and Lafayette hate each other. You know that, Vinny. You know that rivalry in Eastern Pennsylvania.
Well, they're gonna, and we'll see it during the course of the fall and winter, right? With college basketball, right?
Yep. You know,
Those
by the way, you
race.
guys closed 7. There was a late push on Harvard in that game. There you go.
Does that shock you?
Oh, Harvard was the rightful favorite.
Late, and then they take the 7.
FCS has been very tough this year.
Yes, it has. It has not been normal this year down there.
Not for the faint of heart.
No.
Not for the casual bettor.
No.
Alex, this has only been I think this is my 5th bet in FCS. Usually I end up with around 20 for the year.
Yeah.
I only had 5. It's a very, very tough year this year in the
Some
FCS.
pros, some pro bettor. That's
No, I know some pro bettors only
we
bet
have
that.
dear friends that are very that FCS is near and dear to.
Yes, yes. But it has not been kind.
Yep. All right. That's all we got for you here today. We're back in 24 hours, Alex. NFL gets going. Get some Tommy Cutlets action tomorrow on the show.
That's right.
Vinny, have we sent Vince on a United flight to Newark yet? And,
he's already
get
there.
Across the river?
He's already there.
Yeah, get some cutlets this week. So, all right. Alex, good luck. Vinny, good luck.
You
Drew
too.
Dog, Sean, thank you as always. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again next time on Sports by the Book tomorrow at 9 a.m.